my name is Annie, and I really enjoyed taking this course this semester because it made me think about the ways that communication has a role in both our personal and professional lives. And one of the things I loved about this class is it made me reflect on some of my own communication habits. And I was able to do this through taking the self-assessments. And so the first self-assessment I'll talk about was on self-disclosure. And from this, I found out that I tend to not disclose that much information about myself, particularly online. So I do have social media, but I don't really use it to post pictures or share information about myself. I mainly use it as a way of staying in touch with other people. Another self-assessment I took was on nonverbal communication, and I loved learning about nonverbal communication because I don't really think about nonverbal communication when I am communicating. I usually just think of what I'm saying, but nonverbal communication is so important. And so what I learned from this is that I don't have the best eye contact, and since becoming aware of this, I have even noticed myself looking off in the distance sometimes. So I've been working on maintaining eye contact when I'm talking to people in a conversation more. Another part of communication that I also don't really think about often, but it is really important, is listening and the listener's perspective and role in a communication relationship. So I learned that I am a relational listener and an analytic listener. So a relational listener means that you use listening to help build and maintain relationships, and an analytic listener can see both the positive and negatives of a situation and kind of voice their opinion from there. Also, looking at emotional intelligence now, I learned that I have high adaptability and stress management given intense situations and emotions, but an area I can improve on is understanding my own emotions as well as trying to understand other people's emotions. And then the last self-assessment I'll talk about is related to the family. And so from taking this self-assessment, I learned that my family would be characterized as a pluralistic family. So we have high conversation orientation, but low conformity orientation. So discussion tends to be more open, it really flows, and a lot of the decisions are based off of this discussion. So overall, I really loved learning more about my own communication habits, and I also loved learning about communication in general. And one of the most important concepts I learned was communication competence. So this was really important for me because it's all about how people throughout their lives can continue to improve their communication skills and become a more effective and appropriate communicator. Another term I really liked learning about was self-disclosure, which I mentioned a little bit in my self-assessments already, but self-disclosure is how much you're willing to reveal about yourself. So it really is all about a balancing act. Sometimes people feel really comfortable and it's great for them to reveal information about themselves, but sometimes it's not as comfortable for people. So it really depends on who you're talking to and who you're revealing this information to. Another term I learned this semester was I language. So this relates to responsibility. So you really have to take responsibility for what you say and be able to look yourself in the face and take that responsibility for what you say and not try to put responsibility onto someone else or use but statements to try to get rid of responsibility that way. Like I said before, I really liked learning about nonverbal communication, and one aspect of nonverbal communication is paralanguage, which are things related to the voice, so emphasis, tone, pitch. And so that is really important in communication because it can transform a simple no to one of screaming like this, no. And this really gives different meanings and has a whole different message behind it. And then lastly, I loved learning about communication climate. So this is the social tone of a relationship, and it influences how you communicate with someone. So I made this collage a little bit ago, and it has all positive words. And so if this were to be my communication climate, it would most likely include a lot of positive interactions and verbal exchanges. So ultimately, the 6 main ideas I took away from this class that I am going to apply to both my personal and professional life are starting with one, communication has a relational development. So communication can be used to build, maintain, but also break up relations. Another thing is, to become a better listener, it's really, really important that you try actually listening. The listener has a major role in communication. And so use techniques like paraphrasing, questioning, explaining to make sure that you're understanding the message, and this will help build relationships and make sure the communication is flowing effectively. Also, know which type of communication is best given a certain situation and what you're trying to communicate. Sometimes a text message can be perfectly fine. Sometimes an email is more appropriate. And sometimes you really do need face-to-face communication. Additionally, look for nonverbal cues. Nonverbal cues can really provide a lot of insight into the deeper meaning of a message, so look for facial expressions, look for body language, look for all those things. Another tip is conflict is inevitable, but defensive language won't really help. It's really a matter of both communicators coming together and giving a little to work out their problems. And lastly, communication, both verbally and non-verbally, is a way someone expresses themselves. So you really do have to take responsibility for what you're saying and what you're putting out there, because it really is so important. So ultimately, I learned so much this course and this semester, and I really hope to just keep on improving my communication skills thanks to this.